Right, this is the beam that we dropped off the car in the previous video. So the plan with this is to completely strip the beam down into its bare pieces, and we've got some new seals and bearings and bolts and all the rest of it. We're trying to give it a good refresh. It's the original beam. Oh no, it's not the original beam. I think I fitted this beam to the car when I had it back when I bought it several years ago now. There's nothing actually wrong with it. The bearings are actually still good. It isn't knocking or anything. But seeing as though I'm going right through the car, I'm just going to do the beam now. So it's sorted out. So I've already taken most of the brake lines off this side. I'm working on this side at the moment. None of this has really been disturbed for ages, so just taking the bolts off now that hold the mount and the sort of frame rails and all that hold the shock into the beam, which then holds it to the car. So we'll just get that off. That's one of the mounts. I'm going to be upgrading these for solid ones. Nothing wrong with these ones, they've been on there for years though, and they are looking fairly worn out, but I'll keep those for spares on something. Just disconnect the shock on this other mount now. There we go. I think we'll give all these pieces of paint up as well before it all goes back together, just to get it all looking nice and fresh. And there we go, that's in a nutshell what the beam looks like in pieces, or at least the tube and the supports anyway. So next thing is get all this rubbed down. I've got to pull the bearings out the inside of the tube. If you look down the end, that's the two needle bearings. You can just about see one in the end there. There's another one down where they see the tube change size there. And there's a seal in the end, that's all going to get replaced. So I'll get those out first, and then a good clean up is needed. 20 years of grime and crap all over. Okie dokie, so here's the back axle of the car, all completely stripped down now, pretty much anyway. I've just pulled the bearings out the centre of the tube, so there's a bearing in the outside and a bearing just set in, obviously on both sides the same. That's the two needle bearings that the swing arms ride on. So when you get like a Peugeot or whatever, a Citroen with a back axle that looks like the wheels are leaning over it, normally it's because one of these bearings, generally that one, is shagged, allowing play in here, and eventually it starts knocking and banging like mad, the wheel leans in, and it's just sort of an MOT issue, stroke an issue all round really. This beam was actually still good, the bearings were all fine and actually still fairly well greased up, but it is, you know, it's getting on 20 years old, so I decided while the car's in pieces it'd be silly not to go right through this and sort it out. So I've just pulled all the bearings out. The outside ones you can pull out fairly easily, the inside ones are a bit of a pain in the bloody ass. So I had a long bar in the end, which you can see there. I just welded a bolt on the end of it with a piece of steel that's the exact width of the bearing, and made the hole in the centre a bit sort of too big, so it's more like an oval, and you push it down past, let it flap across, and then pull it out. I got one out like that, the other one was tight as hell, so I ended up driving the other one into the centre of the tube, and then smashing it out sideways, which is why one of the old ones that we took out, if you look, is rather not round anymore. So that's the old bearings. These caps come off the end here. I've got new for that. The 2 dust seals, we've got new for that as well. All the new parts are over here in the bag. There's not really much to see. So there's an offset washers, the 2 Torx bolts that hold it on, and dust seals. The 4 bearings, obviously. The adjustment screws from the end, and also those steel inserts that I was saying about. So that's all the new parts. So it's just a case of giving this a bit of a clean up here now. I think I might give it a quick lick of paint as well, just to try and tidy things up. Right, okay, so I've just given that a bit of a wide brush on each end and a bit of the tube there, and a bit of a degrease, and sort of cleared out the splines best I can. I think I'll give that a lick of paint there now, so that can go off overnight, and then we can sort of reassemble. Right, quick lick of paint on the rear beam. That's the 2 fuel tank straps, which I just thought I'd clean up just to freshen them up a bit. And I painted the other bits on the ends as well. Just painted those silver. So all the Peugeot fanatics can go mad at me now because I haven't painted it the right colour. Right, well, we've got a bit of a thunderstorm going on outside, which has kind of subsided for a second, but it is absolutely tipping down. So I'm just in here tinkering away with this beam. So I've got the tube back in the vise now. I painted it up yesterday. So I'm just going to sort of push the 2 bearings in now. There's no actual set stop place where the bearing has to go, so it's advisable to measure when you start the gap from the end here to the bearing, and make sure it's the same when it goes back in again, which I believe is about 200mm in the book. So I'm going to push the inside ones in first, and then the outside ones just go in easily. Okay, that's one end put back together. So there's one new bearing right down in there, if you can see it. Then there's the outer bearing, that one's new, and also this shield that goes around the outside. So just left to do the other side now. I found the easiest way to do that is a 33mm 3/4 inch socket. It's exactly the right size to push on the outer edge of those bearings, or sorry, the inside bearing. Obviously very important that you only drive the very outside piece, otherwise you'll crease over the inner lip there and you'll damage the bearing. You'll find it will drop in most of the way easily, sort of by hand, and then you just knack it the rest of the way. Just make sure when you take it apart, you measure the distance from the edge of the bearing to the end. It should be probably roughly around 20 centimeters. Mine was slightly more. But after measuring my trading arm, I decided to actually put it back where it was rather than the more suggested 20mm, because it does give you a bit more length and reduce the stress on it slightly. And there is the centre tube assembled. I think I'm going to fit it. Well, I'll put the shocks on it now, and then I'll fit that to the car before I put the arms on, because I need to set the height on the car. So I'll give the torsion bars a paint job and get the tube back on the car, fit the shocks, and we'll go from there. Right, time to get the beam back on. Got a bit of assistance here from Chris. Right, beam is back on. It's fairly simple. I'm just going to hook up some brake lines as far as the compensator now, and then we'll look at sort of sliding the trailing arms and the torsion bars in to get the right height going.